What is the most wholesome thing you have seen? A friend and I were talking, and she said it in front of the kid of another friend. I dismissed it by saying she probably knows worse. We asked what was the worst word she knows. She very carefully looked around just in case her parents were around and whispered selfish. I have 2 nieces. At little one's birthday her friend gave her 2 unicorn toys. She immediately looks at Big C's with a huge smile. Look Big C's, this one for you. We can both play. She was genuinely so excited to play unicorns with her sister, and it never even occurred to her that he didn't need to give one to her. My heart grew 3 sizes that day. A little boy at the airport kept trying to climb over a concrete divider that had active traffic on the other side. His mom was loaded with luggage and kept trying to stop him, but didn't have free hands. My brother-in-law walked up and said, "Hey kid, there's a rule here. You have to keep 1 foot on the ground at all times. Look around. Everyone has at least 1 foot on the ground." The kid kept trying to climb, but with 1 foot firmly glued to the ground he wasn't in danger anymore. Such a creative and wholesome way to let the kid keep playing while keeping him safe. Yesterday at work my boss' 5-year-old daughter was drawing a picture for me and said, "This is you, a princess." And I thought my heart would combust because that was just so sweet. She proceeded to make a little collection of drawings, which she folded into a book and gave it to me. It was all hearts and rainbows. That was just absolutely wholesome and made me appreciate little kids. Made my day, to be honest. I was on what I call a rumpled suit flight. One of those flights on a Friday at 6 from New York to DC, where most of the flight consists of business people in suits drinking $14 double whiskers. A fellow rumpled suit sat across the aisle from me next to a mother and her kid. When she could, the kid brought down her tray table and a coloring book and started coloring. I didn't hear what was said, but at some point the kid handed the rumpled suit a coloring book, and they spent the remainder of the flight coloring and chatting. I was kinda like, I want to color too. My last week of high school, our lunch lady gave out small gifts to some of the seniors. Just the kids that took the time to chat with her, that she got to know more personally. I received a sketchbook with a sweet good luck note in it. I was always in art club and was going to school for fine arts. So she took the time to get all of us a gift that was specific to US. This lady saw hundreds of kids a day and still took the effort to get to know us. Was headed to Oakland from San Francisco through the tube. Trains packed as always. People on BART are good about public transit etiquette in general during commute hours, so nobody's talking or listening to music or anything. When we leave the tube onto the viaduct over the port, one guy answers his phone. "Hello? Yeah? Oh my god. What hospital? Okay, I'll be there as soon as I can." He hangs up and just looks super distraught. Someone taps him on the shoulder and says, "My car is parked at West Oakland. Do you need a ride?" He agrees and they get off together. Little gesture, but it was uplifting to see someone volunteer for a stranger like that. When I was a preschool teacher, we had one kid who was our certified cheer-upper. If someone was crying, she'd get a tissue, walk over, carefully blot their eyes, and make them blow their nose. All while saying, "It's okay, you're okay." Eventually they'd stop crying, she'd take their hand and they'd go play. She was a little angel. In Austin, Texas, my family and I went to a breakfast place. The food was good, the waiters and waitresses were amazing. But they messed up our order. They were short on staff, apparently. Someone had either quit or got fired, and another person had called out that day, so it was only a few people. And it also happened to be one of the busiest times of the week. So, my mother went to go to the bathroom, and when she came out, she noticed our waitress standing at the corner. She was about to cry, or was already crying. I had been waiting and looking out for her the whole time, so I was able to see this. My mother noticed her high stress levels and asked if she had wanted a hug. The waitress nodded and said yay. My mom opened her arms and brought the waitress into a hug to comfort her. And once the waitress had calmed down enough, my mother came back to the table after making sure she was alright and told us what happened. I feel lucky to have my mother in my life. I love her so much. When I was, like, 11, Dad was driving us to a gathering at my grandma's. There was a woman pulled over on the side of the road. Dad asked if they needed help. She said she'd run out of gas. Dad told her he would get some. So we go into a gas station. Dad explains the situation to the cashier and is prepared to buy a can of gas. There's this other customer that looks like a biker, big dude with tattoos and piercings, who tells Dad he has gas at his house and tells us to get in our cars and follow him. His wife and young son were in the front yard. Turned out this was his sister's house. The guy had fled a hurricane with his family. Nevertheless, he insisted on giving us the gas for free. When my youngest was 2/3, he slept in bed with me. I woke up one night to him not there. I panicked and looked around. He was laying and sleeping cuddled next to my oldest son. I gifted a used electric wheelchair to a family who couldn't afford one. The kid, maybe 14 years old, was kinda grumpy looking when he arrived, didn't say much. Once we got him in the chair and he was zooming around, he was all smiles. His mother was also super happy. I heard the next day he told his sister to clear off the driveway so he could practice with it, and by the weekend he had gone to a fair. Edit, bit more background. I had a nurse doing some care at the time. I got a new wheelchair and was looking for somewhere to donate my old one. She mentioned this kid she knew and made the arrangements. I read a story once about a woman whose father had died before her wedding and his organs were donated. The man who received his heart walked her down the aisle. My dad and I were at a stoplight a few blocks away from a grocery store and a homeless man was sitting on the curb. I would given him some money, but the road was pretty busy. I watched a guy with 2 huge bags of groceries walk up the street and give them to the homeless man. It was such a kind gesture, I almost cried right there in the car. My oldest son, he was just getting the way he could sit up well and bend over, set back up all on his own. My wife was in the shower. I had him on the bed. I noticed he started pulling at a pillow, so I pulled it over in front of him. He laid face down on it for a second. I thought, wow, he must be tired, and just before I grabbed him, he sat back up and smiled the biggest gummy grin ever. Then he did it again and again. Then it suddenly hit me. He's playing peekaboo, so he did it another time, and when he sat up I said peekaboo, and he laughed and smiled. I'm a fairly rigid guy that doesn't get emotional or worked up about much, but that broke me down and lifted my spirits all at the same time. My 2-year-old nephew giving his 4-month-old sister, my niece, kisses constantly. He won't give anyone else kisses but her. He can barely even speak, but clearly already loves his baby sister. It's so adorable. I was in the local supermarket doing my shopping. I was pushing my cart in the frozen food section when I came across a young woman in her 20s, I'm estimating. Her little girl, I think around 2 years old, was sitting in the cart she was pushing. She was beautifully cooing to her little girl, "I love you. I love you," among other sweet things and sounds. Now, I never met this young lady. I never talked to her. Just watched her treat her daughter very sweetly with all the love in the world. It was the most nicest thing to see and experience because my own upbringing was a living hell. My parents broke up when I was young, around 5 to 6 years old. Mother got custody of us kids, and she was a mentally ill, abusive, psychotic monster. I never knew a scene like that in my own life. All I got from my mother is daily yelling, screaming, cursing, nagging, and hitting. On more than one occasion she told me to my face how she wished I was never born. I just knew, with a kind, loving mother like that in her life, that little girl was going to grow up into a nice, normal, happy human being. Having a mother like that makes all the difference in the world. When one of my family members was suffering from depression and wouldn't come inside or talk to any of our family, my neighbor and my family member's best friend just sat next to him on the curb outside for 2 hours to keep him company. Seeing my 4-year-old nephew share his peanut butter sandwich with his friend at the playground. Edit, thank you stranger for my first gold.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and subscribe. Comment down your thoughts and I'll see you next time.